I went for a walk last night. I often do that just to freshen up after a day. And as is occasionally what happens is, as you're out in the public, somebody recognises me and they say, "Oh, hello, Richard. I enjoy your videos," which is very nice. They've become quite popular. Well, on this particular occasion, I was just minding my own business and somebody said to me, "Hey, Richard, have you got a moment?" And I said, "Oh, hello." And I noticed that out of the gloom came this rather unusual looking fella. He had this sort of dark floppy hat, a big long black coat, and greyish hair, and a sort of long, what would you call it, a Gandalf style beard. And he looked at me and he said to me, "Let me buy you a drink. I want to tell you something." He said, "You've almost got it, but not quite. And I want to tell you the greatest secret." And I thought, oh, okay. So we went into a pub and we bought a couple of ales, and he took me to the very back of the pub in one of the darkest alcoves where he said we couldn't be overheard. And we sat down, and as we sat down, he reached into a bag and pulled out a board. And he opened this board, and I noticed it was a game. It was Monopoly. And I thought, oh, you know what it's like at Christmas when the board games come out, and Monopoly is one of them, and you think, oh, we're going to be here for hours. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll be as quick as I can." So as we sat down and we were drinking, and he was bringing out all the paraphernalia that you have, the little silver objects that you're the playing things, you know, there was the top hat and the dog and the train and the iron and a number of others that I can't now remember. And then there were the community chest cards and the other ones, I forget what they're called. And then there was some of the Monopoly money, which he was just sorting out into different piles. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And he said to me, he said, "Oh, pick a character, whichever character you like." So I looked down and I thought, actually, the top hat. I quite like the top hat. That would be lovely. So he said, "Do you know, your parents have done you a very big disservice in life?" And I said, "Oh, really? What do you mean?" He said, "They informed on you." And I said, "Oh, I don't understand. What do you mean they informed on me?" He said, "When you were born, they informed the government about you. They took you to a building, a government building, and there, some 14 days after you were born, they told a registrar about you, and they gave away your legal title." And I said, "I don't really understand what you mean." They said, "Well, the registrar filled in a certificate, did they not? They filled in your name, and your parents were the informants." I said, "Oh, that sounds rather creepy when you put it like that. You're talking about my birth certificate, aren't you?" He said, "Yes, that's right. And they gave your parents a copy, not the original." And he said, "At that moment, you'd signed away, or effectively they had signed away, their son's legal title. And this was then turned into a bond." And I said, "Oh." He said, "You see, the thing is, at that moment, your legal title on this certificate became a trust fund. The Treasury has now turned this into a trust fund." And at that point, he gave me a certain amount of Monopoly money. He said, "Oh, here's some money for the game." And I said, "Oh, thanks very much." I can't remember how much he gave me. But he said at that moment, he said, "Oh, I don't know, the trust fund has probably had £1 million put on it. And because it was bonded, it was floated onto the stock exchange and was earning money. Throughout the rest of your life, this trust fund would earn money. It would earn huge amounts of money. Check how much you've got there." And I counted out the money. He said, "That's like a trust fund, isn't it? That's the trust fund. The bank has just given you a whole load of money." And he said, "Which character are you playing?" I said, "Oh, the top hat." He said, "Yes, that's your legal title." He said, "The government, when you ever get anything official, it'll come with your name in capitalisation, big capitalisation, the same as on your birth certificate. Capitalisation. That's how you know that you are a player in the legal game of life. Your top hat isn't you, is it? I said, well, no, clearly it's just a silver little thing moulded out of metal. He said, exactly. It's not actually you. Just as your legal persona, your name in capitalisation, is not you. And yet it's on all the bits of paper from the bank, from the tax office, all those different bits of paper on your car registration, all those different pieces of paper. That is a representation of you, but it's not actually you. Just as the top hat is not actually you. And I said, oh, okay. He said, so you've got the money from the trust. That is your estate. And we're going to play the game with your estate. He said, do you know much about trust funds? I said, to be honest with you, I don't know very much at all. He said, well, let me explain. You see, when you have a trust, there's a fund, and it's set up by the trustee, in this case by the Treasury, the government, the Treasury. They've put in this money. Now, in order for a trust to work, there must be two other people in it. There's three maximum, you see. There is the beneficiary, the person that the trust is set up for, which in your case is you. This money that's been put into is yours to do whatever you like with. Oh, I said, that's very nice, thanks very much. He said, but there is also somebody who must administer that, the executor. So the executor is the one who will make sure that things are paid or that you can withdraw money for what you need. And he said, of course, when you're a baby,